so just to show you there's no smoke and mirrors, I'm going to do a reset on my AutoCAD here, the complete and complete, like almost like a reinstall of my AutoCAD. I'm going to do a reset, settings to default in my AutoCAD here. So I've got my start button, AutoCAD 2023 there, and reset as the default. Reset custom settings. And it's done a reset there. Okay, just to show you, there's nothing fancy about this. So I've reset my program there. Now, by doing that reset at the start button, that's even more thorough than doing an uninstall of the program. If I was to go to Start Settings and go to the control panel as it was and uninstall AutoCAD, it still leaves some files on there. But by doing that reset, it goes back to a complete, fresh, out-of-the-box install. It rewrites the registry as well. Just to show you, there's nothing fancy set up here. It is bog standard AutoCAD out of the box. I'll just quickly check my emails in case. Just worried that you can't see my screen. Right, so it's bring my AutoCAD up there onto the front end screen. So it's an out of the box install. I've not set anything up fancy, nothing over and above what comes out of what you guys have got there. Whether it's AutoCAD or any of the other vertical products, AutoCAD LT. So all I'm going to be showing you today, everything I'm going to be showing you today will happen in AutoCAD LT as well. And it's not version specific. This will all work. You've got earlier versions of AutoCAD. I'm trying to think, is anything in there? Right the way back to AutoCAD. Well, there's some slight changes around AutoCAD 2012. So this will work on all those releases all the way back to there. Right, so there we go, I'm in AutoCAD now. So let's get up to the drawing editor. Do an open. Bring the open dialog box up on the screen. There's my open file dialog box. And I'm going to set up my places list so I can get to my drawings quickly and easily. Relatively C, data, webinars, and I'm working webinar 11 today, so I've done 11 webinars, look. So as I say, all the ones are saved on our website, so you can go and look at them previously. So look at them in another time. So I'm going to set up my places list. That gives me quick, easy access to where my drawing files are. Build in RockM and open it up. So there we go, now we're in the drawing editor. I personally don't like the initial layout. There's information missing off the screen, and I want to change the colors to make it easy for you guys to see it on the screen there. And the first thing I'm going to do is to dock my command line across the bottom. Yes, I know we're talking about layers. I'll get that very shortly. But there's the command line at the moment floating around. I like to have it personally docked across the bottom, showing 3 command lines. To go into options, to change the colors, put your cursor on the command line, right click, and there's options next to your cursor. I'm going to change my ribbon to a lighter ribbon. The option there, look, a lighter ribbon. Okay, and also change the color of my background just for the presenting process to a white background. So applying close to the background, doing OK on that, and I've got a lighter ribbon. Might be a bit easy for you to see there. Additionally, on your taskbar at the bottom there is lots of information missing down here. A lot of these buttons missing, and some of these settings will slow your machine down when you are working. To turn all the other settings on down here, it's the 3 bars in the bottom right-hand corner down there. Look, click onto that one, and I tell everybody to tick the whole damn lot. Turn them all on. You can see what you're playing with then. As I say, some of these will slow your machine down when they are active. Look at them all. All the ones that are in blue are the ones that are active. So I can go along the list there now. There we go. Keep machinery nice and quick. Now I've got to admit, I do have issues with my graphics card on this machine, so I'm going to disable my graphics acceleration for the moment. Need to get that sorted. Right. And now, there we go. So I'm happy now with my setup. Right, so your layers panel, there it is up there, look, in the middle of the ribbon, home tab layers panel. And I'm sure you're all aware that you've got the pull down list there, and it shows you your list of layers in there. Okay. Now, use these buttons on here all the time for turning layers on, turning layers off. There's a button there, look, to freeze the layer. So if I pick that button there, if I pick onto the furniture, and the furniture will disappear. Okay, just by, don't need to know what layer it's on. Okay, don't even know what layer. I just use the buttons there, look. And there's a button on the bottom below that, look, to say thaw all layers. Pick that button, it turns them all on again, look. To set the current layer, how do you set the current working layer? Pull down list there, let's go and pick on the name. So if I go to layer furniture, and I can go and draw some furniture. There we go, there's a piece of furniture there, look. Another piece of furniture there, look. I'm going to draw some walls, pick on the pull down list there, pick on the word walls, and it's just the wall there. That's all bog standard, you know. I'm drawing some wall lines there, look. Okay, and then turning layers on and off is just the same. If I want to say turn off, set the layer 0 current. Now, when you are working, if you've got a lot of layers in there, you don't really reckon on this big long list of layers in here. I mean, it's not too bad, this one, about 20, 25 layers in there. What if you've got a drawing with hundreds of layers in? Well, a bit more awkward. There's a button here, look, say make current. You click that button. If I pick onto, say, a piece of furniture, it switches to the furniture layer. I can go and draw a piece of furniture. If I say make current, click onto a wall line, and go and draw some more walls. Okay, draw a wall across there, across there, across there. Okay, so that's quick and easy. Switch to the door layer, make current, pick onto a door. Check the doors of the doors layer. Yeah, these doors on the walls layer doesn't help, does it? Okay, but yes, use that make current. Make current. Okay. Now there is a match layer button there as well. Now I'll tell you about it, but I would suggest you use the match properties, not this match layer command, because match properties does the layer as well. However, watch. I'm on the walls layer there. If I draw some piece of furniture there, look, or whatever, it's a piece of furniture on the walls layer. If I say match layer, with this command, reading the notes there, it says changes the layer of a selected object. So that's where you pick first, the ones that need changing, to match the destination layer. So match layer, those need changing 1, 2, 3. Okay, press the enter key and go and match them to the existing piece that's on the existing layer. Click and it moves them across. Look, that's your match layer. Okay. Now, there's a pull down button there. Oh, sorry, I should have shown the isolate. I'll show you in a moment the isolate tool. Pull down button there. Look, it pulls down and shows you other options in there. Now you can pin this panel down there. Look, pin it down there like that with it. So it's pinned out now. It's pinned out. Okay. So what have we got down here? What have we got down here? Well, there's various buttons in here, and this pull down list here, which I'm going to show you later on. This is called the Layer States Manager. Anyway, what do these buttons do then? There's a button here, look, to delete all the objects on a layer and to purge that layer out of the drawing. How many times do you want to get rid of the information or delete a layer, but it won't let you because there's information on the layer? Okay, well, this button will do it for you. Here we go. So I say delete, and if I go and pick onto a piece of furniture, click, and there we go. Press the enter key. It says it's deleted the objects. Anything else? Nothing. There's nothing else. Press the enter key. I'm going to continue to delete the layer as well. I'll say yes, and there we go. That layer is gone. So if I look at my layer list now, layer furniture has disappeared from the list. Okay, that's one way to get rid of layers. I'm just going to do an undo there. Go back. So yes, delete layer there. And this next one, what's this one? Layer merge. Now, that layer merge button has been in there for years and years. However, they've made it easier. When I come to the layer palette, I'll show how to use the layer merge tool. Okay, what's the next one there? Viewport freeze in all viewports. Okay. So let me just quickly nip to one of these layouts down here. So I'm in a layout tab now, paper space, model space. I've done a webinar on that. I might do another one actually. This is quite cool the way this one works. Let me just quickly copy this viewport around from there to there to there to there. Okay. Going to each viewport. Here we go. Going to each viewport. Going to each viewport. Now this top left viewport is where I'm going to do my furniture layouts. The rest of them, therefore, the electrical layout and the ductwork and everything else. So I don't want the furniture in the other viewports. So if I say turn them off, turn the furniture off in all the other viewports, click, and there we go. So this now here, this viewport here is my furniture layout viewport. And it's turn them off in the other viewports. There we go. Turn the furniture off in the other viewports. So that's that one. That's what that one does there. The viewport freeze in the viewports, except for the current one. Right. Back to the model tab. Okay, that. Model tab down here. What's this next one? Layer walk. Now this is an interesting one. A layer walk tool. Comes with a dialog box. Here we go. Here. Right, so it's basically saying in here, it's showing me what is on these layers. So it gives me a layer list there. Look, I'll drag the box down so you can see them all. So there's all the layers in this drawing file. Okay, so it's telling me that those objects there are on layer cubicles. Nothing on depth points, no dimensions, no. There's the doors showing. Electrical, nothing on the frame layer. There's the furniture. Let's come down to walls. So there's the walls. So I want to see the walls. Oops, and if I control and select the doors, walls and doors, there we go, look. Now, if I untick this box at the bottom, and do a close, it'll leave those layers, those layer settings on the screen. If I tick that box, it won't pop up with that. There we go. So it's now showing just the walls and doors. So that's the layer walk tool. Now, that button is a bit awkward to get to, isn't it? Because you go to the layer panel, you pull it down, pin it, not necessarily pin it out, but pick the button. It's a bit of a chew on. So if you find that tool is useful, if you do a right click over the tool, a right click, you can add it to the quick access toolbar. And there it is up on the quick access toolbar there now. Up on the top there. You can put any command you want up on the quick access toolbar. Right click on the circle command, add to toolbar. Right click on the move command, add to toolbar. Even your layer list, right click, add to toolbar. And there's my layer list now on the quick access toolbar. Dead easy. I'll just unpin that. Now, you can only fill it up so far across and it crashes into the drawing there, but you can move it below the ribbon, look. Show the quick access toolbar below the ribbon. So now I can fill it up all the way across the screen with the commands I use on a regular basis. I'm digressing a little bit. Show it back above the ribbon there, take those commands back off, remove, right click, remove, and you can take them back off again, right click, remove. And the same works in Outlook. My Outlook, I've customized my quick access toolbar so I never switch tabs in Outlook. It's a Windows thing, and Autodesk are following up what Microsoft's doing on that one. Right, so that's the layer walk. What's that one? Copy objects to a new layer. So copy the objects and put those objects onto a new layer. Strange one, but there you go. I haven't found a use of that one, but I'm sure you guys can think of something there. Changing object to current layer. So again, if I just turn my layers on, turn them all on, click that button there. That's why I like these buttons. Turn them all on, thaw them all, and so on. So I'll just pin that down again, pin it out. So yes, what's this then? Changes to the current layer. So if I draw a line on the wrong, if I draw some objects on the wrong layer, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I can't see it using it very often. There we go. If I switch to the walls layer, and then if I say change the objects to the current layer, pick the objects, there we go, press the enter key, and it moves into the current layer, which happens to be walls. Bit of an odd one. Can't really see that one being used very much, but there you go. Then you got your fading there. You can fade the layers when you're using that isolate tool. So yeah, there you go. Some buttons there on the layers panel. Right. Oh, sorry. Yes, in that layer walk, which I missed there, in the layer walk tool, there's a button there, look, to purge out any layers which are not being used. If I say purge, there we go, it's purged out the layers which actually aren't being used. Quick and easy. Saves you going through the purge routine and picking just layers and chewing on like that. So it just dumps out the layers which are not being used. Close that. Just do an undo a few times there. Just get my layers back in the list. There's all my layers back in again. Right. So in that layer pull down list, you've got on off, freeze thaw, lock and unlock, set your color and the layer name in there. People often ask me, what's the difference between on off and freeze thaw? Let me show you. I'm going to set layer 0 current. So there's my drawing on the screen. And if I come down to the list here and say, okay, there's some furniture there. Look, if I, now what I'm going to do first of all, before I do that, I'm going to copy a piece of furniture there, look, from there, and copy it way over there somewhere. So there it is, way over there. Okay, so I'll zoom in. That's my drawing. And we all know, I hope, we all know that if you double click your roller on the mouse, it'll do a zoom extents. Now, because I put that sofa over there, 10 miles away, over there, the drawing, it does that, doesn't it? Okay. Whenever I double click my roller to do a zoom extents on the roller, it does that. Okay, right. So if I come to my layer list and I turn my furniture off with the light bulb, turn it off, the furniture disappears. I can't see it, I cannot select it, and it won't print. If I double click if I come to my layer list and turn it back on again and do a freeze on the furniture layer, I'll freeze the layer. I can't see it, I cannot select it, and it doesn't print. So what's the difference? Let me show you. If I turn it off and double click my roller, my drawing does that. Now, if your drawing shrinks down the screen like that, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, there must be something over here somewhere causing me to do that. I'm doing an erase crossing, and there's nothing there. Double click my roller, and it does that. Now, if I come back in again into here and thaw the layer, sorry, turn it on, not thaw. There's my furniture showing. And this time, instead of turning the layer off, I'm going to freeze the furniture layer. Disappears, can't see it, won't print. Double click my roller, and my drawing fills the screen. So that's one of the differences between on-off and freeze thaw. And I always recommend and advise people, stick with freeze thaw. What you see is what you get. And the number of times I've had drawings sent to me because the guy's double clicked his roller and the drawing disappeared in the dot in the corner, all because there's an object on a layer which was turned off. So when I get the drawing file, I go click and click, double click my roller, and I'll find it. Oh, there it is over there, 10 miles away, delete it, double click my roller, bingo, the drawing's stopped. So that's the difference between on, off, and freeze thaw. Right, let's have a look at another drawing. So I go to open. This time we'll go for this drawing here. Open it up. Let's look at this drawing here. Bit of a busy drawing, this look. You've had a lot going on in this drawing file. Let's have a look at this layer list. Holy moly, look at all these layers in here. It goes on and on and on and on. How many times have you received drawing files like this? Loads of layers. You're messing on, trying to work in all up massive layers in there. Okay, masses of layers. Okay, so now I saw there were some layers turned off and some rows, and goodness knows what's in there. So I'm going to turn all my layers on. But no, I'm just going to double click my roller first. Some information on the outside there. Double click my roller. And the drawing does that. Okay, so what's going on here? Now, I've got my coordinates turned on, and they weren't turned on before. And they're showing some massive, massive numbers down there. So if they weren't turned on, that wouldn't give you an idea of what's going on here. And this drawing was sent to me because of an issue with it. When I measured one of these letters here, how high is that letter E there, for example? It is 250 kilometers high. That's quite a big bit of text, isn't it? So somebody's obviously accidentally put that text in at a massive, massive scale. So what the guys are doing was putting a window around it to delete it. The trouble is, you can see that one pixel just there, that one pixel just there, that is the drawing. That is the drawing. I zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. It's starting to appear. There it is, look. So somebody's put some massive text in there. So I'll double click my roller, zoom out slightly, and being very careful there to avoid that single pixel, delete that massive text. So there's my single pixel. I'll zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. There it is. So getting there. So I double click my roller. Here we go. Let's have a look. Oh, it didn't fill the screen. So I've missed something down here. So erase crossing, double click my roller. And it's still not filling the screen. What's going on? Well, it goes back to this layer business again, doesn't it? There are some items on a layer which is turned off, potentially. Now, I'm not going to go through a big long list of over 300 layers going click, click, click. I want to use this button here, look. Turn all my layers on, quick and easy. And there it is, look. In that key that we saw earlier on, there's some hatching in the boxes. And there it is. Now, this blue grip over here is not an object. This is the origin of the hatching. So if I delete that hatching, double click my roller, on, you can do it. There we go. Now we can see the complete drawing, and that drawing's been fixed. But look at the layers in this drawing file. Look at the layers. Masses and masses of layers. Okay. So let's have a look at one of these other buttons on the ribbon panel there. And it's this layer isolate and unisolate. So what does this do? Well, in this particular drawing file, these vertical red lines are a sprinkler line. And I'm the guy having to lay out some more sprinklers. Okay, so I need to start turning layers on and off. Now, blimey. So I'm going to go through all this big long list here. What a chew on. You can use this tool here, look. I'm going to pin that panel out. But it's not it's on the top there. It's these two buttons here, look. Okay, so if I say isolate, and it will either hide or it will lock all the other layers except for the ones of the objects I select. So if I say isolate these sprinkler lines down here, I click on it, there we go, and hit the enter key, it'll isolate the sprinkler pipework and turn all of the layers off. So I can now see quite clearly where the sprinkler lines are, and I just start adding them in and add them in and add them in, working them quite without getting all the overhead of all the other information there as well. Plus my graphics card will breathe a sigh of relief. There. Okay, now, the problem, of course, is in this building, I might need to go and work around a column or something. So I can't see where the other information is to reference it. So that's a bit awkward now, isn't it? So I've sort of shot myself in the foot. So anyway, using the unisolate tool, the button below that, and bring everything else back on again, let me just show you one of the isolate settings. So instead of turning everything else off, what I can do is if I pick the isolate button and then on the command line go to the isolate settings, and instead of turning them off, I can say lock and fade everything else. Lock and fade everything else. So lock and fade. I'll put a fading value in of 80%. Okay. And then if I now zoom in and select a sprinkler line, click and press the enter key. And there we go. And now I can still quite clearly see my sprinkler pipe work, but it makes it much easier to see, okay, well, everything else is locked and faded. I can snap to it, I can see where the columns are, and everything else I can lay out my sprinkler pipe work nice and easily in this drawing file. Okay. Once I've finished doing my work, just use the unisolate tool there, and it brings the drawing back to the normal display of the items. Okay. Right, so that was that tool up on there. Okay, so let's now go and have a look at the layer palette. You pick the layer properties palette. We'll switch back to other drawing first, actually. So I pick the layer palette button there, look, and it comes up on the screen where it's last turned off. Now it works like a palette, like any other palette on the screen. Your properties palette, your materials palette, your lights palette, your tool palette, which I hope you're all using. I did a webinar on palettes. You're going to see about palettes. Now, this layer properties palette is a bit of an awkward one. So I'll drag it to the middle of the screen first of all, and I'll explain how palettes work. And it works for all the palettes. There's a cross at the top corner to close it. It disappears. And you can turn it back on again with this button here, look. Or for the other palettes as well, it's the View tab on the ribbon. And there's a Palettes panel. And they're on here, look. They're all on here, including the Layer palette. I think it's one of these. There it is, look, the Layer Properties palette. There's this click. So you can bring on that list. There's your Tool palette, your Properties palette. On the Palettes panel, on the View tab on the ribbon. Right, so cross to close it. And an auto hide. If you auto hide a palette, it turns into a strip. So it's nice and neat on the screen, out the way, hover over it, and it folds out. You read the information, come off it, it falls back out the way. So I'm going to lock it out so it doesn't fold out, so it doesn't auto hide. And then here, this button here, the next one down, is the properties of this palette. The properties of the layer palette. Click on it. Various options in there, and you can see it is ticked on allow docking, so it will allow it to dock. But I don't want it to dock. I don't want it to dock. I want it to float on the screen, and I want it to sit on the side of it there. But so I'm going to remove the tick from that, so now it won't dock. And believe me, this is a really awkward one. If it gets docked across the top, underneath your ribbon, it's a real pain to work with. So now it won't. I can push it up there, look, push it in the corner, and it won't dock anymore. I can move on another screen if I want to as well. Anyway, I only have on the screen while I need it. So, in fact, let me just see the paint shop shows it more effectively. So I'm going to put it up the top there, look, and I drag the bottom right corner across the screen. And I typically maximize it across the screen because I only have it on the screen while I need it, and then later on, I'll turn it off. Nice and big on the screen there. The problem here, of course, is I cannot read my layer names because it's all crunched up in the corner there. And I can't read my column headings either. The first thing I'm going to do is to put my cursor onto any of the column headings. It's on the description column heading. Put your cursor up there, look. Right-click on your mouse and come down to maximize all columns. That's much better. I can now read that box properly. I can read the information. I'm going to drag this across so I can a bit more room on that side there in my filters. We'll look at filters in a moment. But there we go. It's nice and big on the screen. I can see all the information there. I'm just going to switch back to the Building Rock M drawing. And there's the Building Rock M layers. So, now first of all, on your machines in the office, on your machines, there's a setting I'm going to suggest that you turn on. Out of the box, this status column here is telling you porcupines. It's supposedly telling you which layer is being used and which one is not being used. So this little coloured in parallelogram, if it's filled in blue, then it's saying this layer is in use. If that parallelogram was hollow, i.e. clear white, it would suggest the layer is not being used. This column at the moment, out of the box with AutoCAD, is not active. And I would recommend on all your machines back in the office to go in that corner there where it says layer properties or settings, that's it, settings, click that button, and in here, where it says indicate layers in use, I would recommend you tick that box and do an OK. And now you can see a lot of the layers, probably half of these layers are not being used. So that was pointless before, really, other than telling you which one is the current layer. Okay, so get that box ticked on your machines. Anyway, so it's telling you the current layer. You can just go and double click on the name there. Look, and it puts the green tick next to the current layer. Double click, that's now the current layer. Puts the green tick. So you can just tick those boxes. Double click on the layer. Whoops. Yeah, double click on that layer there. Makes it current. You can freeze a layer. On these boxes here, freeze a layer. These buttons here, freeze them, turn them off, just like you can that pull-down list at the front, on the front end. Okay. You can also lock a layer. I didn't show what the lock button did I? Let me just quickly show what the lock button does. Let me unlock this one. Unlock. I didn't show the lock button. So Imagine you begin this drawing file, you have to do a new furniture layout. So what I would do there, Home tab, pull down list, and I would lock the walls layer, lock the doors layer, and lock the windows layer. So they are fixed. And now if I just say erase everything here, did I lock the walls layer? Just double check. Yes, no, I didn't. Clown. So you can see how they're grayed out. So that's the grayed out. So they are shown that they are locked. And now I just put a window across the whole lot, press the delete key, and it's done a strip out for me. Quick and easy to do a strip out. So lock the layers of the information you want to keep. It means you cannot accidentally erase stuff. Okay. Right, back in the layer dialog box. Okay, so I was mentioning about the layer merge tool. Now, you know when you come into a drawing file and you try to delete a layer, so you come into here, there's a layer, I want to delete that, so I right click over it and do a delete. Delete layer. It says you can't delete it because it's either it's layer 0 or def points, it's a current layer, it contains objects, or it's an XREF dependent layer, or the layer is being referenced. So they're the reason you can't delete a layer. And you mess on and you mess on, well, there's nothing on this layer. Why can't I delete it? It's just clogging up your layer list. Well, let me show you the tool to get rid of it. So here, for example, I have the layer frame. There's 3 frame layers there, look. Now, maybe my borders, but there is a layer border as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to merge these layers into layer border. And it's dead easy. And I tend to do it in this dialog box here. So I'll right click, here it is, merge the selected layers to, I'm going to merge them into layer border. And OK on that. Are you sure? Yes, please, crack on. And there we go. Any information, if there was any, on those layers has been moved and placed on layer border. Then I get the question, what happens to the colors or the line types or the line thickness? Well, if the objects had their colors set to be red or green or blue, as opposed to have the color set by layer, when you move it across, it'll still be red, green, or blue. However, if their colors were set by layer and the line type and line weight was set by layer, when you move it across to layer border, it will take on the properties of layer border. So just be aware of what happens to the object properties. Okay, so yes, so in here then, that's your status column. There's the name column. You can right click, rename it here as well. So rename a layer to shading. We're going to call it. I need to spell this morning. So you can change the layer name in there. On off, freeze, thaw, lock and unlock. A plot and no plot. Okay, what does that do then? Well, if I pick on the little printer there, that layer will now not print out. However, it is displayed in the screen. I can select it and everything else, but it will not print out. So it might be costings, or it might be notes on the screen to remind you what to do. Or a good one is your viewport boundaries. I want to see my viewport boundaries so I can stretch them around, copy them, and see where the boundary is, but I don't want them to print out. So typically they are set to no plot on your viewport boundaries. Okay, so turn back on again. I quite often get questions from customers saying, why is the stuff not printing? So I'll say, what layer is it on? And they'll say, oh, it's set to no plot. So remove the red mark and away you go. Setting the color of a layer, setting the line type of a layer in there. Look, click on the list there and it shows the other line types in there. So my line type in furniture is now hidden. Line weight and transparency as well. So you might just put all your hatching on a building to a layer called transparency layer there. Look, set the transparency. Your transparency goes from 0, i.e. not transparent, up to 90% transparent here. So watch. I'll set my hatching layer. I'll make it to 80% transparent. So my hatching layer is 80% transparent. So I'll come back into the drawing file here. And if I want to hatch over this building, So this is the storeroom there, look, and this area in here is the office area. Now, normally, if I was to hatch that in, if I say hatch in, I'm going to set the solid pattern and make it green and select this object here. Normally, it should be in solid, wouldn't it? Okay. It'd be solid like that. If I say hatch in and make this one magenta, select the object and hatch in this area. That's the storage area there, look. But I've set the layer. I'm going to move this onto layer. Move it onto, I should have set the layer. Sorry, my fault there. Didn't put a layer. Shading. There we go. Now it still looks a solid colour. But watch, if you turn on the shade, if you turn on your transparency down here, look, you can now see through the hatching. So I go into my layer properties. Go to my layer manager here, look, and set the hatch shading to, I'll make it 40%. It'll look a bit darker on the hatching. There goes a bit darker now on the hatching. And so don't forget, if you're going to see the transparency, you have to have this button turned on down here. There's the hatch transparency turned off. There's also a tick box in the dialog box to make sure that you print the hatching as well. Right, back into this paint shop drawing, this big massive drawing file here. Double click my roller and look in the layer dialog box here. So let's have a look at these layer filters. Layer filters. That's on the left-hand side here. Left-hand side. And there are two types of filters you can create. One is a user-defined filter. That's the where it says group filter, and also a new property filter. Now, supposing I was working on this floor plan, I've been given this floor plan here, this building. Now I'm working the safety equipment, the sprinklers, the alarm system, the sounders, the hose reels. I've been tasked with setting those up in the building. I could create a filter based on the safety equipment. So here we go, a new property filter. And I'm going to give it a name, safety equipment. Safety equipment. And on the filter, you can filter on the status, the name, what's on or off, or any of these options down here. I'm going to filter on the name. So picking this box here, look, it puts an asterisk in there. So that's a wild card. So it'll search for anything that has anything at the beginning. And I'm going to type in fire, another star. So it reads star, fire, star for the filter name. So I'm going to drag this down so you can see where it's found. And it's found a series of layers in there. The fire alarm loops, fire system equipment, fire system panel. It's picked up on the layers with the word fire on. What about this sprinkler system? So it's up below the other search criteria where it says fire. I've typed in star and then sprinkler, S-P-R-I-N-K. That's all I need to put in. There we go. It's up the sprinklers and sprinkler pipe work. And if I can type anything I want in there, so siren, so any sirens in there, or alarm, or hose. I don't think of any more, to be fair. So there we go. So hose reels, the fire alarm system, the fire spray, anything you want, it'll filter them. And there's my list of layers, look. Okay, on that. And now I have a list of layers to do the safety equipment. Fantastic. If I just double click to make one of those current working layer, fire alarm loop 1. Now I want to turn off everything else on the screen so I can see my safety equipment on the screen. But that's the opposite of this list, isn't it? The invert of this list. And sure enough, down here, look, bottom left, there's an invert the filter button. So I can do that, look, invert the filter. So now it's showing everything but the safety equipment layers. So in this window, I can do a right click, select all, and say, oh, freeze everything. I've frozen all the other layers. So if I uninvert, is that a word? Can I say uninvert? you have to be careful what you say nowadays, don't you? Uninvert, invert the invert, whatever. There's my list of fire alarm equipment. So let's have a look at what it looks like on the screen. If I close that, and there we go. That's got rid of all the other clutter to show just the fire alarm stuff. Anything with the fire alarms. I can see where all the alarm panels are, the whole lot. Fantastic. Now, an added bonus is this. An added bonus on my pull-down list, it's only showing the layers I'm interested in. And not that 300. There were, in this drawing file, there were 380 layers. Just mental. 380 layers. So that's much easier to manage now, isn't it? Much easier to manage. Okay. There's my layer properties there. So there we go. Yeah. So there's my layers in there. Look. The safety group. Now, the other filter list you can create is this group filter. And with a group filter, just give it whatever name you want. I want to say Steve's set of layers. There we go. I've made a new group filter called Steve's set of layers. I go back to the all filter. There they are. Go into here, look. I'll pick some layers. I'm not sure I've actually got anything there. Grab some layers there, drag them across, and drop them on Steve's set of layers. So there's my set of layers there, look. So again, if I make one of those current, right click, select all, and thaw them all, and then invert the list, right click, select all, I'll thaw them all and refreeze them. Okay, close the dialog box, and there's the layers I selected. Okay, and it's showing again just the layers I'm interested in. Oh, right. My layer list, it's showing the wrong list. Look, it's showing all the throws. That my layer, okay, on the screen it's correct, but my layer list there is showing the inverted list. Go back into here, go to the all layers again, the all layer list. Now, hang on a minute. Where's all my layers? I'm on the all layers filter there, look. It looks like all my layers have disappeared. I'm on all layers there. You might get a bit of a panic on. Where's my layers gone? Right. What is the opposite of show me all the layers? The opposite is show nothing. And look, down there, again, I've had phone calls from support calls saying, Steve, where's all my layers gone? Okay, checking your layer dialog box and make sure you haven't inverted the show all layers to show nothing. It's so easy to do. And there's all layers. So I'll go to Steve's set of layers there, look. There's my set of layers, close the box, and there's my list showing there. Okay, so that's the layer filters on the side there. Now, obviously, with the safety equipment set of layers, if I was to create a new layer called fire reels, that would automatically get added that list automatically. Whereas with the Steve set of layers, you have to pick and choose what goes into it. So be careful. Be careful. Now, while we're in here, I'm just going to show you another issue you might have. Not an issue as such, but a right pain. When you open a drawing file, in the bottom left-hand corner, it says, there are unreconciled layers in your drawing file. How many have had that one? Hands up, how many have had that one? How many hands? How many have had that? Yeah, quite a few of you. Not that I can see. I can't see you there. But yeah, and it's a right pain. You close the dialog box, and the next time you open it, it's a right pain. If you go back into this settings button here, look, button in here, and it's this top left-hand corner, new layer notification. Evaluate new layers added to the drawing file, and it's this reconciled layers. I've really not got to the bottom of it. Why you'd have it, but the reason is, if somebody in the office puts a new layer into the drawing file, put a new layer and called it Timbuktu. So a new layer in your drawing file, Timbuktu. The drawing file goes to somebody else in the office, and it pops up and says there are unreconciled layers. So you can go and look. It'll show you them. It'll say there's a new layer in here called Timbuktu. Should it really be in this drawing file? If you say yes, then it won't pop up again. If you say it's all reconciled, but hang on a minute, I don't want a layer called Timbuktu. Someone's messing about. It's not in our CAD standards in the office, so therefore you can find out who's done it and kick butts or whatever you're going to do, delete the layer or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, but that's not usually the case. Usually the case is I don't want that damn thing popping up all the time. Remove that tick. Now it will not pop up again, ever, in any drawing. So there we go. Watch out for that one. Okay, on that one, and there we go. Right, I'm conscious of time there, but one other thing to do to have a look at. So indicate layers in use, layer notify, the filters, I've done that. The layer states manager. How about this one? Let's look at this layer states manager. So we're done in here. Close off the screen, don't have anymore. I'm going to open, yes, another drawing file here called 600 heating. Open this one. We're going to have a look at the layer states manager. The layer states manager. Right. Okay. So what is the layer states manager? Well, you know when you go to print a drawing file out, you go to print a drawing file, you think, well, hang on a minute, did I have this layer turned on last time, or was it turned off last time? You go to the layer list there, turning things on and off. You can't quite remember which layer was on, which layer was turned off, and it's a bit of a chew on. Okay, it's a bit of a chew on. Okay, so yeah, was that layer on last time? So you're turning layers on and off in the list there, trying to remember. Well, the tool to sort that out for you is a tool called the Layer States Manager. Okay, and what you can do is you can create a snapshot of the current settings of the layers, a snapshot. So here, for example, all the layers are turned on. It's a bit of a mishmash on the screen. Now I want to see just the electrical layout to print out to give to the Sparky. So I need to turn off, and use these buttons here, look, to freeze the dimensions. Sparky doesn't need to see the furniture, turn that off. Turn off the structural stuff there. Turn off the red line through there. Doesn't need the sink units, doesn't need that, doesn't need that. So there we go. Now it's showing up in the kitchen at this end. Turn off this. Oops. Layer 0 current. Layer 0 current. And then freeze these tanks here, leaving the switches and sockets and everything else in there. And there we go. That's the radiators off, boiler, and the kitchen sink. Right, so we are left with the electrical layers turned on. Switches and sockets, the downlighters there in the hallway, and so on. So this is how I want to display the electrical layout. So I come into here, look, in the pull-down list, and say create a new layer state. It'll take a snapshot of the layers. I want to call it Sparky's plan. Oops. Sparky. No, Sparky's alike. Sparky's plan. On that, and there we go. Now I can print the drawing out, do my work, and that's it. Now, if I want to do small work and just say, right, thaw all layers, turn all layers on, and crack on with work, then the builder turns up and he says, oh, can I have a drawing as well? Bring your print out. Oh, okay, so I've got nothing set up for the builder, so here we go. Freeze the electrical stuff, freeze the furniture, freeze the sanitary. He only needs to see where the structural stuff is, doesn't need to see the downlighters, doesn't see the kitchen sink. He just needs to see the dimensions on there. Okay, turn off the plumbing, turn off the radiators, and there we go. There's the builder's plan. And you can create a layer state. There we go. A new layer state called builder's plan. And there we go. Okay. And in fact, if I say turn all layers on and thaw them all and lock them all, I can even create a layer state called all layers on. Here we go. A new layer state called all on. Or ready to plot, or whatever you want. So now, next time the builder walks through the door, This is, can I have a printout, please? Yeah, no problem. Here we go. And you can set it for the viewport, builder's plan, and there it is. Spark is right behind it. Hey, I want a plan as well. I want a latest drawing. No problem. Sparky's plan, and there's the Sparky's plan. Quick and easy. That's called the Layer States Manager. Now, if you go into the manager itself, let's see what's going on in the Layer States Manager. What's going on in the Layer States Manager? Now, what it's doing, it is remembering settings. So exactly what is it remembering? Exactly what is it remembering? If I expand this, it's remembering everything about the layers, look. The color, the layer, the line type, the line weight, transparency, the plot style, is it frozen, the whole lot, everything. Now, that has it's a double-edged sword, this, a double-edged sword. Now, sometimes I just want you to remember, is it on or off, frozen or thawed? So you can tick and untick those boxes. And also, when you go to restore a set of layers, you can untick the color. Don't restore the color. Don't restore the line type. Okay? Now, these layer states are transferable from drawing to drawing, either directly from one drawing to another, or via a little file called an LAS file. Sparky's plan there, look, if I export it and pop it onto my desktop, or into my webinar folder there, look, and it creates a Sparky's plan LAS, and save on that. So that's now sent out to this drawing file. If I close this and switch to the Building Rock M drawing, I can go to the equivalent place in here, look, and go to the Layer States Manager. Notice there are no layer states in here, but I can import an LAS file from the hard drive and bring it in. And obviously, you need to have the layers. You need to have the layers in this drawing file. So if you have standard layers in your drawing in your office, then that will work. It won't work if you've got different sets of layers. Okay. But what should I do here? What should I do here? I'm going to create a layer state in this drawing file here. I'm going to turn all my layers on and thaw them all. Did I delete that furniture in this one? I did. Let me just close this drawing file and reopen it, because I need to show you. Save changes. No, I'm conscious of time for you guys. I won't be another 5 minutes, if that. The Building Rock M, open it up with the furniture in. What should I do here? In this drawing file, if I say, and this is what I do when I receive a drawing file from a customer, I'll say, okay, make a new layer state called as received. That's a drawing file as received. And what it's done there is it's captured the guy's settings, the color, the line weight, and everything else. If I close this, now watch, if I go into the layer manager and do a right click, select all the layers, and I'm really mess this drawing file up. I'm going to change the color to I don't know, to magenta. Okay, on that. I changed the line types, changed all the line types to a hidden line, and okay on that. And this drawing should be a right nest now. The line type scale is probably. I knew that this, yeah, another drawing where the line type is all screwed up in it. But what a mess! What a mess this drawing file is now. Okay, but because I have saved, so it's been given to, I don't know, somebody in the office, and they've screwed it up. He's been sacked. Before I walked out the door, he's messed the drawing file up. Okay, but here, what I can do now is I can come into here, and if I can reset the as received, and there we go. It's pulled it back in again. So it's a brilliant way of implementing CAD standards in an office. So you save an LAS file away with your colors, your line weights, and everything else in there. No sec, that can be transferred from drawing to drawing. Right, I'm about running out of time there, and I've virtually covered everything. Sorry, we've been a rush through that, but there's just so much in there, guys. There's so much in there, and quite often you don't have time to go and investigate and find out what's going on. So let me just, while I'm chatting, I'll switch back to my other screen with my contact details on. So if I go to screen sharing. So yes, all these webinars are saved on our website, and I go through all of this. I go through this kind of thing. I'll change the screen here. I change screens. Notes. I don't want to stop screen sharing. As I say, I'm new to this software, so I'm not quite sure where. I switch screens. Media. Media player. I don't want to stop screen share. Don't end the webcast. I'm going to switch screens. I'm going to switch screens. Anyway, I can't switch screens. No, probably going to lose you all. So yeah, there we go, guys. I don't know if you can see me on there now. Just my webcam on again. But my contact details are, I'll read it to you if you've got a pen and paper there. Steve, STEVE, .crow, as in bird, CROW, at Graytech, GRAITEC.com. Any questions, queries? I want to know how to look at the old webinars that I've run on other stuff, viewport scaling, and that kind of thing, line types, done a lot of webinars on that. Then drop me an email, or if you have suggestions, anything you struggle with, then just drop me suggestions for other future webinars. Drop me an email. And as I say, I cover this stuff in my training courses. We can write custom courses to suit your needs, anything you want. Fantastic. There we go, guys. Well, it's gone. It's nearly 11 there. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep an eye out for my next webinar. I'm not quite sure it's going to be on yet, but it'll get an email sent out to you. Get on the mailing list for my webinars. And the other guys do webinars as well on Revit and Inventor and all the other products as well. So, yeah, brilliant. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll catch up with you again soon. Bye.